Hello? Test it, you work? All right, great. All right, well, welcome to the all-campus meeting. I'm Colin. Hi. All right, so I'm here to talk about the strategic plan, or at least where we're at with one aspect of the strategic plan. You can see we have a website link. What this link actually takes you to, though, is the strategic plan. Okay, the different goals that we had set out based on the strategic plan. One of the biggest complaints from the last strategic plan was transparency, communication, where are we at? So the IT specialist program actually put together this website for us so all of us can track where we're at, what we're doing, what activities are moving forward to meet each one of these strategic goals, as well as who is responsible for meeting these strategic goals. So if I were to click on goal 1, all right, so we have different subtopics. So A is provide accessible and effective advising to students. Okay, so create an advising center. We've got student services responsible, and then we have a green, yellow, and red color coding. Green means good, we're moving forward, progress is being made. Yellow means, hey, there may be some obstacles that we're kind of going through. Red means stop, you know, that we're at a holding point and we need to figure out how to overcome that holding point. There's different ways to sort this information, and it gives, for each goal, there's an individual assigned, like Dan is assigned for goal 1. You can go through the different sub-goals or tasks, different areas. You can see that improve and maintain curricular alignment. That's kind of at a standstill. Nothing's going on there yet with that. You can look at any comment history, which there won't be any comments, but had there been updates, you can actually go through the iterations in the history and see where we're moving forward and where we're at. You can also sort by department, who's responsible for the goals. So let's say we want to know CTS, what they're responsible for. All right, well, they're goal 2, build relationships, business, government, so on and so on and so on. So you can actually look at your area and see where, what you're supposed to be involved with and how you're involved with, and basically work it from there. So this is kind of our way of staying accountable to the strategic plan and the goals of the strategic plan. Any questions, thoughts, concerns? The link will be sent out. It is also, we're trying to get it somewhere much closer to the front of the main website. Right now it is buried in about NSCC, community, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's buried deep. The link will go out with the PowerPoint today, as well as we are going to try to get to the front of the web page, so maybe up top, so we can just access it really easily. Yeah, that was at last meeting. We had that exact discussion. How do we get that information more easily available to everybody? Any other questions? Okay, there is actually a login feature where there are certain people that will be designated to do the updates and put those in. Obviously, not everybody will have access to it because you know why, right? Okay, good. It was a nice way of saying it. There we go. Any other questions? No? All right. Off to teach Drew. Who's up next?
Hello. Thank you. Thanks, Linda. I saw you leading that one. When they asked me to do the July meeting, I said, sure, thinking, nobody's going to be here in July. You guys are all proving me wrong there. I forgot about the ice cream. I was asked to present to campus what the admissions office is working on, some of our initiative, some of our initiatives, what we're working on moving forward. And I really kind of agonized over what's the best way to present that, because I could do slides and slides and slides and slides of bullet points, but I don't want to bore you all. I'm going to try real hard not to. So what I did instead was pull together an admissions funnel. So those of you that are familiar with sales are familiar with the sales funnel, where you start with a lot of prospects and you end with the few that are really serious about committing to the college, to whatever you're selling. So this is a look at what the admissions funnel, what the admissions process looks like. You can see we start with prospects, we start with a lot of people, and we move all the way through to registered. So what I want to do today is just walk through each of these steps to really show you what we're doing at each stage of the game with these students. Feel free to interrupt with questions. The green light came on. Okay, so we're starting with prospects. How do we get prospects? Pretty much anywhere. So this is where marketing and public relations come in, with the advertising, the billboard, the direct marketing, recruiting, all of the events that the admissions office is going to, high school visits, college fairs, things like that. Word of mouth, of course, so when all of you are out there talking about how awesome Northwest State is, what great programs we have, those are all building our prospect base. So things that we're doing now to help increase our prospects, and more specifically to better manage our prospects, are up here. So we have worked really hard with the IT department, the data team, Terry, Brigitte, and Jamie, to work on getting all of our prospects entered into Banner. Previously, they were entered into an Excel worksheet, which, as anybody that works with Banner knows, Banner does not talk to Excel worksheets. So we had no way of tracking these prospects. When did they apply? When did they request information? We were losing them is what was happening. So now prospects are all entered into Banner, so we're not losing them. We've also streamlined our letter series so that these prospects are getting letters. Our letters are more efficient. We're able to get them out daily rather than once or twice a week, so we can improve that process. And our recruiters are expanding their community contact list. So we were more strategically focused on the high schools. Now we're adding to those lists and having more community contacts, the VA centers, the Chamber of Commerce, trying to find events that we can go to, where we can leave our information in the community, where people will hear about us. Future planning, so all of this I'll go through what we're doing now and kind of what we're brainstorming. So don't hold me to everything that's in the brainstorming portion of these. These are just ideas that we're throwing out. So we're thinking how we can increase communication to prospects. So we get that letter out, then what? How can we get more volunteers to participate in more community events? And of course, working with CTS so that when we go to events, they come along with us where appropriate, or when they go to things that admissions needs to go to, we're heading out with them as well. Oh, and my favorite part of, I can't believe I skipped over this. So prospects, since we're entering them all into Banner, they are assigned an N number and a PIN. I don't know, did anybody know this already? Okay, you guys don't look nearly as excited as I am about this. Let me finish telling you why, though. So they get an N number and a PIN. They don't get access to my NSCC or Sakai. They're not students yet. What they do get access to is log into the application. So they log in with this N number and their PIN, and the application is pre-filled with any information we have on them. So they just go through, confirm, yep, that's my name, that's my address, and then they fill in the blanks that we don't have yet. So it makes the process a little bit easier. It also makes it an easier sell. You're already halfway there, just fill the rest of it out. Okay, so now we're to the application phase. Once a student has applied, so trying to get them from prospect to applied, I put up here the admissions process for each student type. It's a little bit different. I'm not going to go through word for word what it is, but just to put up there, some people have all of the steps on the chart to go through, some just have a few steps. It doesn't just end at that application. And then, of course, there are some additional steps if there's financial aid requirements. If they want to take an online class, they have to do the OLR. And then there's some programs with additional requirements, admissions requirements as well. So trying to get more people to apply. I didn't forget it. I just jumped ahead. I'm that excited about the pre-filled application. Applicants are also being communicated. They get a postcard in the mail to let them know what their next steps are. So beyond that initial acceptance letter, they get a postcard saying, hey, you still need to take the AccuPlacer, or we still need orientation. And then we're also making personal phone calls to these students when we're closer to the start of the semester. And we're tracking what they're saying. So when we're calling them, we're not just saying, oh, cool, you went to University of Toledo. We're actually putting that information into Banner. So we can follow up with students later. We can see if there's any trends on why they're not taking the next step. Future planning, things that we're working on or thinking about. How do we get those students that have applied but not taken the next step to fill out the FAFSA? Same with prospects. If they haven't filled out the FAFSA, what can we do to get them to that next step? We've all had those conversations with students who are really excited about coming to college and then go, oh crap, I can't afford this, without even taking that next step to reach out to us. So we want to reach out to them and be more proactive. And then just figuring out, why are they not taking that next step? What's stopping them? Is there something we should be doing? Are we not communicating well? Or is they just deciding they don't need college? So trying to figure out really what's going on. Then there's the assessment. This may be review for a lot of you, but I wanted to make sure everybody really understood what the admissions process is. So the assessment, we accept ACT scores within the past 3 years. And we also accept Compass and AccuPlacer scores. So we offer the AccuPlacer here. It's free of charge, unless you want to retake it, and then there's a $20 fee. Or if we get those ACT scores in, they've automatically satisfied this. So again, you'll hear me say postcards and phone calls a few times throughout this presentation. We're sending out postcards to those that still need to test, still need AccuPlacer or ACT scores, instructing them on what those next steps are. And it all fits on a postcard, so it looks super easy. And then, of course, personal phone calls are being made. And for those of you who are not aware, I haven't been loud enough in telling you yet, we no longer do the Compass assessment. This past year, we've implemented the AccuPlacer assessment, which, in my humble opinion, is a much improved assessment. One of the major reasons is it has a study app. So students can download an app and study and better prepare. We had a great group of faculty members and deans who sat down and figured out cut scores. They implemented some weighted measures, which better place students into the correct class. And they also use background questions. So these background questions the students are answering. For example, how long has it been since you've taken your last math course, or things like that. And then Lana Snyder is really spearheading the effort to figure out how advisors can better use those background questions and information. Future planning, how can we link this AccuPlacer to advising? So those students that test maybe into those remedial classes meet immediately with an advisor to figure out what their next steps are, rather than getting intimidated by the process and running. With our new office space, when it finally is complete, we will have our own computer lab. So right now we're vacating, we're taking over computer labs when there's no classes. So our schedule is determined by the class schedule. But we're talking about, can we do walk-in assessments or do more frequent? Right now we offer AccuPlacer the first 2 weeks of the month. And so far this has met the needs of our students, but it's not necessarily accommodating to that student that just wants to walk in and take it. And then we're looking at students with low ACT scores. Should we be encouraging them to come in and take the AccuPlacer to see if they can boost those scores up a little bit? Not that I'm saying the AccuPlacer is easier. You can tell I've had these conversations with students before. Just a different dynamic. It's a different assessment. Finally, we're to orientation. Okay, so student orientation, advising, and registration. As many or most of you already know, this has moved online, so we no longer have face-to-face orientation, which means students can complete this step anywhere at any time. As soon as we have test scores on file for them, that's ACT or AccuPlacer, they can take orientation. And orientation, like I said, is online. There's a short quiz that they take at the end just to show that, yes, they did actually go through it. They didn't just skip to the end, which happens to take the quiz. And if they get a 70 or higher, that hold is removed and they can register. I just have down on the bottom, CCP students have to do an advising and orientation workshop. Same idea as orientation, a little bit different. And then once they do become students, they still have to go back and do orientation. So, how to get them to orientation? Postcards, phone calls. We're working on things like how do we get applicants signed up for SOAR immediately? Is it logical to do that? How do we make it work? Can they get signed up before they leave from taking the AccuPlacer, because we're losing them in that gap? And finally, registration. I feel like I went through that really fast. You guys probably feel like I went through it really slow from the looks on your faces. Okay, so once they've gone through that whole process, give or take a few steps depending on the student type, they are free to register for classes. Now, why really am I showing you this whole process? Because I think our focus, my focus as the director, is to really look at why we're losing these students through this process and how can we grab them and keep them, because they've already reached out to us at some point. When I have them as prospects, that means they've filled out a card, they've gone online and submitted information on the website, they've come to admissions and met with us. They've done something to reach out to us. So these are the low-hanging fruit, I guess you could call them. On this next slide, dang it, you'd think I'd know my presentation. On the next slide, let me go over this one first. Okay, so what's happening now to get people to registration? Our Dean of Student Services, Mike Black, is making personal phone calls to everybody that completes orientation to get them to that next step. Annie Andrea, she can stand up in the back and wait. No, she don't. Admissions is also running reports where anybody that's ready to register, we're also calling and saying, hey, you're ready, did you know? And some of the responses we're getting are, I am? And some of them are, oh yeah, I just haven't had a chance to call you yet. So the phone calls are really paying off for us. Future planning, we're really collecting data. Why do people get this far and then not register for classes? It's mind-boggling to me. You go through all of this and then you don't. The idea has been presented by Kristen to offer my NSCC workshops. So these students that are ready to register, invite them to come out to a workshop to teach them how to use my NSCC and see if that's something that would be beneficial to them, among other things, connecting them to advisors. And of course, in the strategic plan, there is an advising center. And then working with the deans to say, is there any way that the advisors would be interested in reaching out to these students? So lots of planning. Now that slide that I told you about 5 minutes ago, this is where I've pulled some numbers from last fall. I don't have any prospect data yet, because like I said, this is new that we've started entering them directly into Banner. We start out with 2,069 applications. Going through this process, you see we go down to 1,556 that took the assessment. That's excluding guest and transfer because they didn't have to. Orientation, we go down to 1,166, excluding guest and transfer. We only register 929 of those students for that semester. So how is it that we're starting with this number and we're ending with this number? So, I tell you this very honestly, but it's what we're looking. We are strategically looking at how can we impact these numbers. So we've got all these prospects out there. What we're doing is working. We just have to figure out how to streamline and coordinate all of our campus communication, all of the student services offices to get them through this process and get that 929 up. You guys have any questions? You're a rather scary group to talk in front of. That's saying something, because I've spoken in front of high school seniors. Okay. I do have a few more slides to share with you. I told you I'm going to talk longer than Colin. I didn't tell you that, but I thought it. I can't stand up here and tell you all these, these numbers we're working on and things that we're really working hard to do without celebrating some of the accomplishments that the admissions staff has accomplished this year. And I couldn't be more proud of my staff. I'm going to make you guys stand up. Mindy, Renee, and Kristen so conveniently sat right here in the middle. And we've got Don over here. Candy and Nick stayed behind in the office. Am I missing anybody, am I? I'm here. With the exception of yours truly, every single person in the admissions office is either new or in a new position. So we've done a lot of training, a lot of teamwork has happened in this office to get everybody hitting the ground running. We've also, I talked about the streamlining admissions to build the foundation so we can really begin to figure out and implement plans for getting these students through the admissions funnel a little smoother. College Credit Plus, I know some days that's a swear word on this campus, usually every day in the admissions office. But we launched this program last year with a lot of help from various offices on campus, and I think it was successful for what it was. And then of course launching the AccuPlacer. Some other things that you may not know, we have an undecided student advising, which is a role Kristen has stepped into and has really been focusing on how to get those undecided students to declare a major or at least to get on a path from the admissions process. So from the very beginning of being a prospect student, how do we make connections to them to get them moving through the process so when they get here, they're more likely to declare a major, more likely to be successful and move through. And then we've also streamlined the guest student process so that it's more efficient. It helps us place students in the correct classes rather than just saying, sure, we'll register you for college calculus when you've only had high school math. I could fill up a lot of slides, but I really want to say a lot has been accomplished. And if you see any of the recruiters or the admissions advisors or Mindy or Candy, they've done a lot of work. Upcoming activities, we do have postcard, emails, and phone calls. Have I mentioned those yet? The county fairs are coming up. We'll be at the Williams and Henry County Fair taking Discover NSCC on the road one day. We're partnering with the Alumni Association on that. And then we'll also have booth space again at Fulton County Fair. And we have a new booth space. For those of you familiar with Fulton County Fair, Dave Donaldson is one who's very familiar with Fulton County Fair. We're in one of the main merchant buildings now, so we're hoping to have moved somewhere where we'll get more traffic. Is that where we were before? Okay, we're back. We're working on pulling together a focus group to really talk to the students and figure some of these steps, to get the voice of the customer, if you will. The My NSCC workshop I mentioned, initial planning has begun with that. And I am working with Melissa to schedule compression planning. So we can take a look at this admissions funnel with the key stakeholders that are involved in it, in the student services, the students, and come up with some strategies for what can we do moving forward and how do we get it done. And finally, for those of you who aren't familiar with admissions, I just wanted to have this opportunity. I tried to put pictures in. I didn't try that hard because I thought I'd get stuff thrown at me. I wanted pictures, but I made them stand up, so I guess that's fair. Don and Nick are both the recruiters for various counties. Kristen is admissions advisor focused on undecided students. Renee is admissions advisor focused on College Credit Plus. We have Mindy, our admissions secretary, who keeps us all together. And Candy, who is data entry, and she also handles the testing for AccuPlacer proctoring. Just checking. That really is my last slide. Does anybody have any questions or comments or things that I can answer? I have a sneaking suspicion I'll be giving this presentation again in July-ish. And hopefully it's a little less scary because we can show all of the awesome things. Not just that, we're listing out the things that we're doing, but showing the impact that they've done and showing those numbers improving. Otherwise, I'm sick that day. Anything else? I think I'm the end of this show. Am I closing out? Am I the only thing holding everybody in this room? There's been talk of karaoke contests in the admissions office. Anyone want to take the microphone? They didn't tell me that they're recording, but I guess I shouldn't have made that assumption. Okay, well, thank you all for coming. If you want to have any questions, if you have any questions, I'll hang out a little bit after, or come by the admissions office and meet everybody. We're in one big happy space, so you can walk in and meet everybody at once. Thank you.